You're watching The New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more conversations and articles, please visit thenewstack.io. Now on with the show.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The New Stack Makers. I'm Heather Joslyn, features editor of The New Stack, and today we're going to take up a topic that's really caught fire in 2022, which is platform engineering. 2022 saw the first Platform Con, a conference aimed at platform engineers that drew more than 6,000 attendees. And Gartner added platform engineering to the hype cycle for software engineering. So that's another sign of its hotness. And platform engineering was the talk of the sessions in the hallways at KubeCon in Detroit this fall. One of our guests today is one of the reasons the topic was on everyone's minds in the second half of 2022. You may have read the article by Aeris Stewart, community manager at Humanitech, that appeared in September on our site. It was titled DevOps is Dead, Embrace Platform Engineering, a title that is bound to get your attention, and so did the article. It was one of our most read posts in 2022. And Aeris is here to talk about the response from that and also how an organization that is interested in platform engineering might get started in 2023. Hi, Aeris. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
And we're also joined by Michael Galloway, the new director of platform engineering infrastructure at HashiCorp. While in his previous role as senior director of engineering at Doma, Michael wrote a great piece for Medium, actually a couple of them, on building platform engineering team with purpose and with sense of mission. And that's worth a read following our larger discussion today about adopting platform engineering. Hi, Michael.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
We've got a lot to talk about, so let's just jump right in. Just to get everyone's on the same, all our listeners on the same page as the two of you, how do you each define platform engineering? Whichever one, Aeris, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. I would define platform engineering as a discipline of designing and building tool chains and workflows that enable developer self-service.
And Michael?
I think I probably have a similar definition. I would define platform engineering as an organization that provides tools, services, and opinions that free up engineering time by reducing manual toil, cognitive load. But it also enables the business to scale with reliability, cost efficiency, and security. A real quick, great example of this was at Netflix, where they built a platform organization that really focused on enabling engineers to adopt a full cycle developer approach. So that was meant all teams were enabled to own the entire life cycle from design to operation. This is really central to how Netflix was able to scale. And so platform engineering teams built services that made it possible for engineers to deliver code, for example, with safety and reliability and consistently, without needing to be continuous delivery experts. So that would be one example of where I have found platform engineering to be a critical function in an organization.
Aeris, your piece on TNS really drew together some of the thinking out there about the rise of platform engineering and the reasons why DevOps has not caught on, particularly with devs. What kind of feedback did you hear from the larger community after it was published?
Well, I wouldn't say that DevOps hasn't caught on with developers.
Okay.
In fact, I would say it's mostly the opposite.
Okay.
We have to put DevOps as a philosophy in context with the siloing and the inefficiencies that came before it. And so when you look at it that way, it really makes sense that DevOps has become as popular and pervasive as it is today. And I would say because of that, the reception to the original article is quite mixed. It kicked off a very big and continuing debate about what DevOps is and if platform engineering can replace it in the first place. In the article, I used a very simplistic definition of DevOps, which is like you build it, you run it. And while I think that can become the reality for a lot of developers at these organizations, it doesn't quite capture all of the contributions that DevOps has made to the space. If you're building a platform, you can still be using DevOps metrics, DevOps tooling, DevOps, principles. And so I think, one of the best criticisms and some of the best conversations I've had with the community about the article is, platform engineering is making an important contribution to the space. It is helping alleviate cognitive load. It's helping organizations scale a lot of these solutions. And platform engineering is helping a lot of these organizations realize what, DevOps originally promised, which is that you can deliver software faster, just without the additional cognitive load.
I really like the way Aeris framed the challenge in that article. I would very much agree. I think DevOps gets confused sometimes because it's been used for so many different things, but I tend to look at DevOps as a philosophy more than what I sometimes see it applied as a title or a role or something like that. Mm-hmm. I really don't think there is a DevOps person on a team, but rather it's the way that the team thinks about its responsibilities and role. But exactly what Aeris just said around the idea of operating what you build or operating what you design. Part of the problem there is that there's a significant amount of burden on engineers or others to learn how to be good at all of those other aspects of the life cycle that they haven't really spent a lot of time on. It's why historically we've had things like folks dedicated to QA or folks dedicated to operations or folks dedicated to, first tier support or things like that. So this is where I think platform engineering largely enables that philosophy. It enables organizations to actually achieve that philosophy without requiring an enormous amount of burden on individual teams or individuals to build up those skills. And rather unlocks their ability to focus even more so on the product goals, but still have the incentives and capability to manage problems in production that can then feed back into future designs. So you need to enable them to be effective at that.
So it's more a complement to DevOps, or in terms of it enables the organization to achieve DevOps principles and achieve a DevOps way of working. What kind of impact might that also have on developers' happiness and operations engineers' happiness as well? In terms of with their jobs. I mean, a lot of organizations struggle with how do you retain engineers? How do you keep them on the job and happy and make their jobs fulfilling, satisfying for them? I mean, does platform engineering have a role there as well?
Yeah, maybe I can start with a general example, and Michael can give us a more specific example from his work. I would say that platform engineering can improve the quality of life for both developers and operations. For devs, having that cognitive load of learning all of these different really complex tools and workflows can massively improve quality of life. And having the support from the platform can be really helpful. That being said, platforms don't necessarily provide like a golden cage for developers either. They still have the freedom to, look underneath the hood if they need to. And so having that balance is really important. For operations, sometimes they can be stuck with a lot of tickets from developers who don't know how to navigate all these complex tools or infrastructure. And this distracts from their more important responsibilities. So operations can really benefit from platforms because it reduces the need for developers to rely on them for, simpler tasks. And they can focus, on their more important responsibilities.
Yeah, just maybe to build on that, I think, engineers don't typically care that much about the underlying infrastructure or continuous delivery or continuous integration. I have very specific and vivid memories of being in delivery engineering at Netflix and examining pipelines to have conversations about ways we could inject better safety into the delivery workflows. And this is something I was particularly passionate about. And I was very much, pretty much alone in that passion when I would engage with teams. And I understand, it's sitting down and talking about how we can reliably deploy to 3 different regions and roll back if we don't is not really a day-to-day thought process or concern, right? the teams are hired, right, to deliver those awesome features. And so they really just want to work on building the cool stuff for business. I think very much engineers love the ability to be able to observe, introspect, solve issues if they're happening in production. Nobody wants a release of theirs to be an issue. So they want that. What this really comes back to is, I think, as you start to grow and scale as an organization, if you put the responsibility of all of the vertical bits in terms of getting solutions out there on engineers, each team is going to then carry that burden. And what gets really problematic is when you need cross-team consistency. There isn't anybody who owns that. So usually you'll see working groups or communities of practice around delivery or other things when you don't have platform engineering groups to try to solve this problem. And that even more so is where the burden starts to really creep in. And engineers start to express this, hey, 50% of my time I'm dealing with non-product engineering concerns because I have to do this or I have to set up that. Mm-hmm. So then they get into a copy and paste strategy just to basically move past it, which ultimately causes lots of problems when you want to scale as an organization. So yes, it alleviates a lot of burden.
There are likely some listeners who want to try platform engineering in their organization. What should be their initial steps?
The very first thing you actually want to do is, if you want to get this started, is you do find DevOps inclined engineers. You find those people that really do enjoy this. And you build a small working team, and that team is the seed. That team needs to come from your product engineering team so that they have a deep understanding of what their workflows and challenges look like. And so when you're going from 0 to 1, you really want to start delivering real value and impact quickly to earn engineering trust. Once you have that, then you can start basically taking a step back, because now you want to go from 1 to 10, and you need to start understanding, things like, what is this organization here for? What are the business outcomes that need to be achieved? And you can start having a bigger direction forward. But it starts with a very scrappy, small working group that can quickly start replacing just small problems in workflows. Build some small tools, some simplification. You're not trying to replace anything yet. You just want to simplify. And that'll give you a really good starting point for understanding what really the value of a platform engineering team should look like. You should not just copy and paste from some other company, because those problems are very different between one and another company in terms of where you should focus or address in the maturity cycle of each.
Aeris, do you have some thoughts about initial steps?
Yeah, I would say echo what Michael says. Start small, tackle the lowest hanging fruit. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, and really start establishing a strong feedback loop with your developers so that you understand whether or not your platform is really addressing their needs the way that you intend it to.
Michael, you spell out some of the ways you went about, or how an organization should go about building a platform team in your articles on Medium. Can you sort of walk through some of the steps you took at your previous organization to give us a sense of why those steps made a difference? So
one of the most important ones, I think, starts with defining your purpose. So there's the main 4 steps that I recommend are defining your purpose. This is, by the way, going really from a 1 to a 10. That 0 to 1 should be scrappy. You shouldn't spend a ton of time on this. You just are trying to find out if there's really a there, right?
Sort of a minimal viable product in a way of this. Yeah.
Right. In this case, I think there is a there, and I want to start scaling up, and I need to think a little bit more. I need to form an actual organization. Mm-hmm. So the 4 steps are really at a high level: defining your purpose. In other words, why do you exist? What are you here for? And that's a non-trivial question. There's usually common explanations for that, but you really want to go through the effort of defining this. And I go into a little bit of detail around how to get into that. After you've got your purpose defined, So why you exist, you need to define where you're going to go. What is the outcome that you're going to go after? And that's really your vision. And really, you're looking for about a 12 to 18 month timeline. You don't want to go too far down the future, but you want to get to something that is meaningful, that is resonant and meaningful. Then you define a plan broken up in milestones and a delivery of real value on a steady cadence. That's really important because platform engineering organizations are notorious for accidentally slipping into a black box mode where nobody understands what they're working on or the value they're producing. So you need to be very conscious of regular drops of real value, as well as just making sure you're tying to the business needs, which evolve. And the last one is really forming a comprehensive communication strategy. There's some great articles on platform engineering communication challenges. They are unique because of the nature of that organization in terms of who you need to stay in communication with, how you communicate your value, how you regularly establish those touch points. And they're more than just reaching out to the engineering teams and internally. You need to factor in upper leadership, and you need to factor in other stakeholders, because those are all people that impact your ability to really move the needle when it comes to things like horizontal migrations that might need to happen, like moving from one type of database system to another, if that's a really important thing for the business. In order to be able to do that, you have to have lines of sight to a variety of different parts of the organization.
I think sometimes people forget about to sort of make your work visible to the rest of the organization, make especially the people that decide your budget.
Right. Yes.
One thing that you address in the Medium pieces is the importance of dealing with unaddressed inefficiencies, the sort of the pebble in your shoe that can slow down the organization's overall productivity. How do you incorporate time to deal with that in a platform team, like sort of balancing product and support aspects of the team of the platform?
I think
team?
the best part is, Heather, I think your question is actually the answer, is right there. And that's the one thing I think Aeris probably can talk to this a lot too, that a very big theme that has come out a lot in 2022 is recognizing that a platform organization is and must function like a product organization. So it's both actually a support organization and a product organization. So it's very interesting because you have very different cycles and things you need to pay attention to in each type of organization. An IT or a platform organization that is formed from an IT group tends to over-index on functioning as a support organization without enough product planning or direction setting. And that's where they fall into a trap of all the support requests coming in are effectively their roadmap, which means that they are only able to scale through sheer amount of humans and some degree of automation that they can try to introduce. Similarly, one that only comes from the product engineering organization tends to want to go into a black box and build a massive solution that's going to get dropped 12 months later and hopefully change the planet, which is also a risky anti-pattern from a platform organization. So you really need to balance both. As the support organization, some tactical things you can do to find those pebbles are things like when you are getting support requests, make sure that you start gathering context about that. Ask, what are you trying to accomplish? And gather that context. Start capturing that information. Stay close to your customers. Engage in research on terms of how they're utilizing the tools. Ask questions and surveys. And get more curious, ultimately, about what it is that they're trying to accomplish. What are their concerns? What are the pressures that they're receiving? Crucially, this is IC to IC. Honestly, I mean, I know I'm in leadership, but I'm going to just disparage leadership slightly here, which is leadership conversations alone. So me going and meeting with other managers or directors of the other organizations very rarely uncovers the pebbles. The pebbles are really at the individual contributor level where they're interacting directly with the tools and solutions. And so those signals you need to get at that level. And you need to just budget time for it, like you would budget for anything else that's important.
Yeah, it's always been very striking to me that a lot of, finding the balance between support and product is really a cultural or people issue, and less so a technical one. That is where the platform engineering community can really step in and start to share more of that knowledge. The practitioners have the technical side down. It's the how do we communicate and build this feedback loop effectively, so that we're building the right features into the platform and we're addressing the right problems. That tends to be a really big issue. So,
what signals do platform teams need in order to build relevant solutions for engineering?
So some of the key signals that I've seen, first, they do come directly from customer interaction. There's a jobs to be done framework that I found is very helpful when you're trying to ask questions from customers about what it is they're trying to achieve. What are the things? How do they stand up a new application? How do they add a database to their service? How do they debug their service? How do they know if a service is failing? Those kinds of questions help to get you really a clear understanding as to the constructs in their minds on how to do their jobs. And that's when enough of those will start to give you signals as to where there's problems. Other important inputs are product roadmaps. You actually, as a platform organization, need to understand where those product teams are going, because when you are engaging them, you need to talk about the things that are relevant in their world. And those are the things that are relevant in their world. Another signal is, of course, upper leadership. I always like the question of what keeps you up at night. That helps you understand what senior leadership is most concerned with. Are they concerned about reliability or cost efficiency or scaling? Are they concerned about security? I mean, probably the answer is yes, but to what degree? What is the focus that they have? So those are really important signals in planning your work.
And how do you measure success as a platform team?
I would say it's a combination of quantitative and qualitative feedback. So you're going to want to keep track of the performance across key DevOps metrics. But also you're going to want, qualitative feedback from your customers on what's working for them, what doesn't. You don't just build a platform and leave it there. You're going to iterate upon it and improve it. So, asking the right questions, figuring out where the platform can still improve, is going to be really important in making sure that you're building the best solution for your developers.
I think there's some very simple metrics. So the metrics that are going to matter, they're going to depend on who you're communicating those to, right? There's your own internal metrics in terms of what kinds of use cases do we formally support, how much of the path have we paved, right, for customers. There is also the degree to which, how many individual steps have you eliminated that somebody needs to do. Those are very meaningful to your customers directly. The business as a whole may not look at those, but those matter in terms of your customer relationships. The business as a whole is going to care about overall feature velocity time. Certainly they'll look at the DORA metrics. Platform engineering does not itself move those DORA metrics generally, though. And I think it's really important to know that we can influence them, but a lot of the things that affect those metrics are cultural in nature and depend on the team heavily. So I think platform engineering can provide guidance, support, and the tooling to help them. And in that way, we can influence it, but we can't just point to those metrics alone. So you do need to take a few things like that you can more directly influence and speak to those.
I forgot about one of the most important metrics, adoption. Are people actually using your platform?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can build the best solution possible, but if no one's using it, that's a problem. Aeris, you were one of the forces behind the first Platform Con in 2022. Can you tell people a bit about the role of community in supporting organizations that are on this platform engineering journey and how they might find that community?
I think the community is playing a really big role right now, especially as a lot of organizations, their awareness of platform engineering is just starting or growing right now. There's a lot of knowledge that can be gained by building a platform that you don't necessarily want to learn the hard way. And I think, having a venue for practitioners to share their platform journey is really important in supporting organizations in those first steps, figuring out, what works, what doesn't work. I think, especially going into 2023 now that there is a greater conversation around platform engineering, we're going to see more case studies and reference implementations and deep dives into tooling, what combination of tools that platform engineering organizations can take advantage of. And I think this will be really helpful in getting platform engineering initiatives off the ground and working just a lot faster. And I also think, the community provides a place to just, discuss and learn what works and what doesn't. You can access the platform engineering community on the website. I think it's platformengineering.org. There is a Slack channel with over 8,000 members across the world. I think Michael's also in there too, providing some of his insights. Yeah. And then, we have webinars, in-person meetups about product management best practices and open source tooling and all that great stuff. And then PlatformCon 2023 is just around the corner. And that is also another great resource for folks who are looking for, that expert insight when it comes to platform best practices.
There's really a great community. I've met a lot of folks in there. I would highly recommend it to anybody interested in this space.
Terrific. And we'll link to all the platformengineering.org and the PlatformCon website in our show notes that go with this podcast, so people can access it pretty easily. Thank you very much, Aeris Stewart and of Humanitech and Michael Galloway of HashiCorp, and thank you for joining us. And we'd like to thank all of you for listening today to our conversation. I'm Heather Joslyn for the New Stack, and we'll see you next time.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.